Good afternoon, social media friends, new friends from relationships that we share with each other. And for some of you, I'm going to call it out right now, right here. For some of you who just might be family members, whether you like me or not, welcome to today's episode of Leave It to the Experts. For those of you who don't know me as well yet, my name is Bill. I am your host for today's episode. So what is this podcast series, Leave It to the Experts? It is where I bring into a conversation someone that I know who is an expert in a subject matter, in a business, in an industry. And in this conversation, we get to learn more about why this guest is an expert of that topic that might have an impact for you or someone that you know. So all of that being said, before I bring in my guest today, let me share with you a little story, and let's watch it to lead off with.
Sometimes it's hard to believe we've been doing this for 25 years. You look back at our first place on Carroll Street in Chicago.
And we've gone from 6 employees in a single building
to over 20 locations on 6 continents.
And a staff of over 2,700.
Who knows? Maybe 25 years from now, we'll be known as the company that taught a fish how to ride a bike.
Sounds crazy, but so was taking on a competitor who controlled 85% of the market.
After all, if changing gears by twisting your grip was a good idea, somebody else would have already done it by 1987, right?
And setting up a Taiwanese manufacturing facility with no contacts and little funding? Absurd.
or venturing into components with a plastic derailleur?
Madness. Who does that?
We did, and we still do.
Because we believe that moving forward is a continuous journey.
And that risks lead to rewards.
With a 95.4!
So when we had the chance to acquire an esteemed German manufacturer,
we said yes.
And a suspension company that drove the development of mountain biking.
And the Speed Freaks, making the sweetest carbon composite wheels on the market.
We said yes to that too.
That aptitude and attitude accelerated our evolution from a single product to a full line of components.
And the number one choice of everyone from leading professional cycling teams
to everyday cycling enthusiasts like me.
How did we make it happen? Easy.
By combining the right culture and the right systems with passionate right and left-brained people that love bicycles.
By hiring hands-on engineers who know how to create killer cycling gear in the way it's meant to be used.
By designing, building, prototyping, fabricating, testing, breaking, cursing, commiserating, re-engineering, and repeating.
By making our environment a better place to work so we can make products that work better.
By developing advocacy programs like the SRAM Cycling Fund to promote cycling infrastructure, safety, and access.
By establishing humanitarian initiatives like World Bicycle Relief that give back and forward and back again.
By creating proprietary technologies and continually chasing perfection.
By emphasizing evolution more than growth.
By forging a culture more important than any paycheck.
To make the journey better for all of us.
For all of us. For all of us.
Improve your ride, improve your life, improve the world.
Oh my gosh. I loved how that video flows with improve your ride, improve your life, improve your world. And by the way, audience members, for those of you who are watching this as a live stream or on demand as a recording, no, I can tell you this. I was not lucky enough to invite the CEO, Mr. Day, into today's episode. But what I do have is someone that I know well enough to talk about the company SRAM, what he knows, what they do well, and of course, share his personal story with all of us. So let's welcome my family member, Gary Chiu, into the room. And by the way, his last name is spelled just a little different, but hey, we know each other, so let's roll.
Hey, Bill.
Gary, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How did you like that introduction where I teased everyone thinking, well, maybe I was hoping they were thinking that I was lucky enough to have your CEO come into today's episode, right?
It was awesome. You almost had me fooled.
By the way, before we begin, thank you for joining me today. I know you're a busy guy. Why do I say that? Because I don't know. I think it was last year or a few years back. Whenever I would hear about you through my in-laws, your in-laws, I always got the impression you were like traveling around the world. And I'm like, wait a minute, is the guy working or is he having fun?
A little bit of both, but yeah, thanks for having me here. It's a great honor and a great pleasure. Yeah, I've heard a lot about the podcast, so it's great to be here today.
Perfect. Why don't you lead off with giving us kind of a Reader's Digest version. What is it that you do at your company, SRAM?
Yeah, so building on that video, talks a lot about innovation and like pushing the design of bicycles. Along with that comes testing. So I'm responsible for a lot of the testing at SRAM. I oversee all the test engineers at all the locations and essentially validate all of the products that go out to production and to our consumers. With that, you mentioned travel. Like we've got locations throughout the globe. We've got development centers all across the US, Europe, factories in Taiwan and US and Europe. And we have test labs at every location to help validate all of our products, all of our ideas. And so, yeah, if I missed quite a few of the family gatherings, it's because of that. And to answer your question, it is a mix of fun and work. I will have to say, being at SRAM, fun and work really gets blurred because what I do all the time is a lot of fun, so it doesn't feel like work.
And by the way, I love your corporate attire. You wear your corporate clothing much to what your clients wear when they're like enjoying their ride, their life, their journey on those Rolls Royce bikes that you guys sell, right?
Right. Yeah. It is one of definitely the higher end spectrum of the bikes. Anywhere from $10,000 to maybe even $20,000 today for one of the high end bicycles. That's really where we shine with our innovative products.
That's I guess for some people that's a pretty luxury brand, but for the diehard bicyclers, professional athletes, I guess it's a drop in the bucket for them.
Yeah, I mean, view it as like a Lamborghini or a Porsche, right? Like those are the super cars. These are the super bikes that really help the athletes perform. They squeeze every ounce of performance out of the whole bike.
Wow. And so for as long as I've known you, but certainly most recent with your time as a contributor at SRAM, yeah, when I heard that you're traveling the world as part of the growth and you're responsible for development testing and more or less like quality control, Gary, that's pretty impressive, because if someone's going to drop 10 G's or more on a bike, on a two-wheel bike that you're pedaling, that thing better be like rock solid, right?
Oh yeah, it's got to work right out of the box, and we treat it as if we're spending our hard-earned money buying this bike. If we're putting that much money down, it's got to be completely dialed, it's got to be flawless, and it's got to perform. So
Okay.
the test team does all of that to ensure that happens.
Okay. So as part of you traveling the world, got to put you on the spot and ask the question. You had ample opportunity to practice your Chinese when you traveled to Asia Pac, right?
Right.
As the U.S. delegate from the corporate company, right?
Right.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, not gonna lie, when I go to Taiwan, I think it's default where the locals would expect me to speak the language.
Yeah.
And I'm known as the guy now as, hey, that's the Chinese guy that from the US that doesn't speak Chinese.
That doesn't speak Mandarin, you mean, right?
Mandarin. Yeah.
Let's correct that. For those of you who are watching us today, if you are not Asian, that's okay. But you probably know this if you have Asian friends, and that is there are at least two primary dialects. There's Cantonese that Gary and I speak good enough, right? Would you agree, Gary? Yeah, we speak it good enough. And then there's Mandarin, which I don't speak it as well. I understand it. That's about as most as I can do, right?
Right.
So did they arm you with like a translator when you went to Taiwan? I'm curious. No?
SRAM's a dive into the deep end and figure it out company. So first trip to Taiwan, no translator, figure it out on your own, speak the language, learn the train system, learn the locations, figure out, make the friends, make the network. That's all a part of the appeal, is jumping right in and then kind of swimming out of that.
Okay, I get you. Now, if I understand what I think I understood watching that introduction video, the SRAM story, you guys make bikes that are mountain bikes, for the rugged terrain, as well as like just roads like speed and so forth, correct?
Correct. And then there's gravel bikes that are a mix between mountain and road as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it gets into subcategories because there's like a tool for every trade. There's a bike for every discipline that you ride.
I like that. I like that corporate cliche there. Very, very, very cool. For those of you who are watching us today or watching this as a recording on demand, and if you happen to be Gary's co-worker, his work peers, his work family, gotta drop the next question, Gary. For these Rolls-Royce bikes, do you get an employee discount?
There are employee discounts for the components of the bike. So yeah, for family and friends that have seen me riding around Chicago, I've built bikes with that. So you can get the components at employee pricing, and then you got to get the frame, and then you got to put it all together.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, and Chicago's a very bike-friendly city, amongst a lot of the major cities across the world.
Yeah, and SRAM's a driving force behind that. In the video, it mentioned the Cycling Advocacy Fund. SRAM was part of that from the beginning, working with previous administrations at the city to pilot the first bike path or bike lane, and then growing, and it's expanding from there.
Wonderful. How fast do you feel you've gone on one of your SRAM bikes?
I'll have to check my Strava, but I'll say I'm fast, but I'm sure some of my coworkers and friends will go, no, that's not fast. There's speeds. But 22 miles per hour feels like the right amount.
Okay.
There are definitely riders that can push 30 to 35, maybe even upper 30s, possibly 40s.
Oh, okay. All right. Very cool. Very interesting. So certainly not what I call the casual Joe Divvy experience. It's a totally different experience. How does what you're doing now, Gary, compare to your previous work experience? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah. So I've been in testing for my whole career. So like coming up on 20 years. I started off testing airport runways for commercial and military airports.
Wow.
And then got into building materials and fire testing. So all the building codes, schools, hospitals, high rises that need fire protection, I did testing there. And then now I'm in bicycles. So what has held true is just the principles of testing. Doesn't matter what the subject or the piece that you're testing is, it's the principles of it. Essentially, you're trying to break things and learn so that the consumers or customers don't have to learn that way, right? You kind of figure out the failure points, fail fast, fix it, and then iterate again.
Yeah, that's spot on, especially when you're building, you're offering, you're selling a product, a solution where regardless of how much money you're investing to it, at the end of the day, you and I are consumers. The last thing we want is we brought home this product and it's not working the way it's meant to be. So yeah, I see why, given what you're doing, what you have been doing for the 5+ years, yeah, you're traveling the world and doing all of this testing with your large team becomes so important.
Yeah, and at a young age, I used to break things all around the house. When things didn't work, I would take it apart and try to figure out why. And I was really good at that. I'm sure my parents were like not too happy with me breaking everything, but I learned to make a career out of it, right? You break it as my day job, and then that provides that insight to make things better.
Yeah, and there you have it. Gary's parents, if you might be watching this at some point, or Gary's in-laws, hey, Eddie, Nancy, family members, hey, Gary's history of breaking things is now a stream of income for him. Applause, applause. So as we wrap up today's episode of Leave It to the Experts, Gary, for those young engineers, females and males that are watching and listening to your story, what advice would you share with them today?
I'd say find what you love to do and just go with it, right? Try it out, push it. Don't let other opinions drive or change what you want to do. Life finds a way. So take that forward in your education and in your jobs. Find work that's fulfilling for you, that is fun, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Sure. And apparently you have found that. So for those of you who are potential young engineers, girls or boys, following Gary's footsteps, you get to wear cool corporate clothing like he does. And along the way, you just might be going 20-something miles per hour in a Rolls Royce of bicycles. So audience members, thank you for sharing your time with Gary and me today in this episode of Leave It to the Experts. If you might be an expert in your field, your subject matter, or if you might know someone who is an expert, I offer this opportunity to you. Simply scan the QR code. I would love to have a conversation with you or someone that you know to see when it might be worthwhile and great for you to guest in an upcoming episode of Leave It to the Expert, just like Gary has offered his time with me today. So Gary, as I wrap up our time together today, I learned something more about you. Hey, this helped me kill 2 to 3 birds with one stone. So thank you very much for sharing your time.
No problem. Glad to be here, and I'll see you at the next family outing.
Yes, which is, by the way, very soon on, guess what? Super Bowl Sunday. What is our family thinking?
I don't know, but hopefully we keep it short so we get to the game.
Well, I shared this with Quina. I said, well, I'm going to bring my Apple iPad and some AirPods with me. How you like that one?
I bet you'll have a crowd with you watching that game live, I'm sure.
All right, buddy. I'll let you get back to work testing those expensive bikes, and I absolutely will see you very soon.
All right. Thanks, Bill. We'll see you.